Welcome, everyone, to the States and Nation Policy Summit. I'm Catherine Mortensen from ALEC Public Affairs, and I'm happy today to be joined by Representative Patrick Penn of Kansas, 85th District.
Thank you so much.
Now, this is your first time at the States and Nation Policy Summit, right?
No, we actually attended the one in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Gotcha. Okay, that's right. You did tell me that. So tell me, what are some of the issues in Kansas right now that you are focused on that obviously each state has their own unique issues and problems? What are the big issues in Kansas right now?
Absolutely. Thank you, Catherine, so much for having us here. Kansas is a beautiful, amazing state. And we see a lot of the delegates here from all of their regions as well. And it's nice to sharpen and brush up against some of those individuals and understand some of the policy that they are pushing out there to address a lot of the issues that we find in Kansas. I will tell you the thing that we look at most in Kansas falls into three areas: educational reform, employment opportunities, and economic development when we're talking about taxation in that entire landscape. What does it take to retain or attract talent to Kansas, have people stay in Kansas and get an education, start a family, start a business, and give back to that community? That's what we're focused on.
Well, I like how when you talk about education, you talk about keeping people in your state. And the third thing is taxation reform, because I think that's one of ALEC's key strengths. Is we have noticed over the years that states that reform their tax base and reduce those taxes, that's when they start to see economic growth, more people moving into the state. So that's what you're looking to do in Kansas.
Yes, ma'am. We look at our overarching taxation landscape.
Right.
And we know there need to be some fixes to it. Some of the areas that we're looking to start when we go back into session at the top of this January is going to be our taxation for pensions, for private pensions.
Yeah.
We have a lot of folk who have, really, really hard in their lives. They've started some great businesses or they've been part of some great corporations. And the taxation rate that they have when they reach that time in their lives that they want to, focus on some other things, it becomes an undue burden.
Right.
And we have to bring that down, and also want to take a look at doing some things for the military members as well.
Because you are a retired Army captain.
Yes,
you were in the Signal Corps.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were in combat.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it was nothing as hard as the state legislature, I can tell you that much. No, but we were blessed to serve in the military for 20 years. I started out, I was enlisted as a JAG, NCO. You can't handle the truth. And
love that show.
Then I had an opportunity to go to Officer Candidate School, OCS. And have you ever seen the movie Officer and a Gentleman?
I have.
Richard Gere?
Yeah.
I was Richard Gere, but I didn't have the hair. See, look,
you didn't have the silver hair.
I didn't have the silver hair, but we did have Louis Gossett Jr. there every morning hosing us down. I got commissioned as a signal officer, communications, and I did that for another 11 and a half years and retired in 2017.
Wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
My father was a military officer, and so I know a little bit about the military, and I know that being selected to go from enlisted to accepted into the officers candidate school is very, very difficult. I mean, that is, they take the cream of the crop for sure.
Thank you for that. And, we were able and blessed again to go to combat both against Saddam Hussein. I served in Korea, in the DMZ area, against North Korea, did Afghanistan against Al-Qaeda, and as well as ISIS. Was one of my final operations.
And so that background, having served in the military, that you are interested in making some reforms and helping the veterans in the state of Kansas.
Absolutely.
What are some of the things that you think need to be addressed?
Some of the things that we want to address is education for our military members to make sure that they can have that glide path after they do their service to the nation. However long it is that they raise their hand and take that oath, they and their families have an opportunity to reinvent themselves and get educated in some other areas so that they can be productive in the community. Taxation for their housing as well, and just making sure that they have those types of medical benefits that are necessary and proper to make sure their families are healthy as well. So we're looking at it comprehensively, and we just don't want to do license plates. We want to do something that does something.
I love what you're talking about. And I'll tell you why, Representative, because you're talking about the things that really matter to people and really lift people out of poverty and put them on a trajectory for prosperity.
Yes, ma'am.
Employment opportunities, education, tax reform. And those are the things that ALEC likes to focus on. Talk about a unique program that you took part in yesterday here as part of ALEC Summit.
Yes, so I believe it's called the SNPS program. Bill DeMay was the one who was the architect of it. And they sent out an email asking us if we'd like to meet our federal delegates or the Senate and the House when we got into town for this ALEC convention. And of course, I have to talk to my guys. So he set it up that I had an opportunity to go in and do an office call with Senator Jerry Moran out of Kansas. And we had a great, great time speaking together. I was a little surprised when we got there because the new hire to his office was Majority Leader Dan Hawkins' whole team, his front desk. The young lady is now working for Senator Moran's office. So from the outset, coming off of the street curb, felt like you're right back at home.
That's awesome. So this is a way for ALEC to connect our state lawmakers with their federal representatives.
Absolutely. And to have that type of access and that one-on-one interaction, not, in the setting of a dinner where everybody's trying to push and shoulder and everything like that, but to have the opportunity to just pick their brains and ask them, what are their plans going on the federal level? How can we nest into that plan and work on the state level? It was incalculable amount of value added.
Can you tell us just briefly, what was your message to your federal lawmakers?
The biggest thing to them was hold the line and make sure that you're doing everything to make sure that you give the state of Kansas as much latitude to do the things that are necessary and proper to make sure that we have good education, great economic development, and strong employment practices. So when we look at the opportunities to not only sit down with Senator Moran, I also had the opportunity to go and talk to U.S. Congressman Ron Estes in his office too. And then as a flyby, as chance would have it, this is the jewel of the program that Bill was setting up. I also got to go and talk with Senator Tim Scott. Senator Moran introduced me to one of my personal heroes, Senator Tim Scott. And the young lady that I was speaking of that works in his office, her boyfriend works on the Hill as well. And he got me in with Congressman Byron Donalds out of Florida. So got South Carolina, got Florida, and got Kansas squared away. And we also saw Congressman Tracy Mann on our way to the forum.
That's why they say in Washington, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Even if it's the 25-year-old office scheduler, that person can have contacts and
everyone's
connections.
important.
Yeah.
But I tell you, it was amazing just to see that many teammates and how strong we are, like-minded individuals, all who support ALEC, all who support all of our voters. So we couldn't be more pleased.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you got to participate in that. And thank you for being here with us today. And we'll see you next time on another live broadcast from the States and Nation Policy Summit here in Washington, D.C.